Hey everybody, and welcome to Comic Duo with me, Anthony.
Hi, I'm Mike.
And today we have Daredevil, End of Days. And this Daredevil comic is set in the different universe, and that universe is 12,121. How they make up the numbers, I don't know. I don't care. I just like they could give the number. So it's not like, so it doesn't confuse me.
Marvel is, well, I guess DC does the same strange thing
Same
with their
thing,
universes. Yeah.
It's what if comics, man. But they're my favorite.
I guess it's cool because now you're open to do whatever the fuck you want.
So we start the book. Daredevil and Bullseye are beating the shit out of each other and just totally destroying each other. And
Good.
Bullseye ends up getting the upper hand and kills Daredevil. Just takes one of his batons and sticks it right through the side of his head.
Straight off the bat.
Straight off the back. Daredevil's
First
dead.
thing you read is Daredevil is dead.
Yep,
That's
Daredevil's not in the book.
So, what the hell?
End of book. That's it.
Good night, everybody.
That was a great book, right?
Like and subscribe. I'll see you later.
But anyway, so people were standing around watching the fight as it happened, and they were just videotaping it. They weren't trying to stop it. They didn't call the police or anything like that.
Modern day.
Exactly, yeah. And so it goes viral.
Apathy.
On, YouTube and all other kinds of social media, the news, magazines, and all this other stuff. It's just going crazy, and everyone's watching this fight, and then the eventual death of Daredevil. And there's a reporter, and his name is Ben Urich. And he's the reporter for Daredevil, just like Peter Parker is the reporter for Spider-Man. Well, he's a photographer, but he's the guy for Spider-Man. Ben Urich is the guy for Daredevil.
Okay.
Daredevil made his career.
Okay.
And so it starts off with Jonah Jameson, and he's saying, "Hey Ben, you need to get that story. This is your thing. You have to get the story on this." And so he's like, okay, so I'll go ask around, I guess. So he goes to hunt 20 or 30 different people, and all the responses is I didn't do it, or wasn't me, I didn't see nothing, stuff like that. Just trashy responses, not trying to help at all. They saw it, they know they did, but they don't care.
I'm not trying to get involved.
Yeah, they're not
There's
involved.
No fucking way. Yeah.
And so, finally, he gets to an apartment, and the guy's like, actually, my wife took a video. And he's like, and you actually got to hear this thing that happens at the end.
Yeah.
So they play it, and at the end of the video, right before Daredevil gets killed, he whispers the word MAPONE.
MAPONE?
MAPONE. M-A-P-O-N-E. MAPONE, MAPONE.
Yeah, so it kind of sounds like a mafia name, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe that's...
Maybe. Yeah, you don't know. We don't know.
Who's
Ben doesn't
MAPONE?
know. Only Daredevil knew, and Bullseye... Well, we think Bullseye may have known.
May have known.
But it was his last word before he died.
Nice.
And so now, the whole story is going to be Ben finding out what this word means.
Mm-hmm.
So, first thing he does, he goes and he's trying to find where this starts off. And where this really starts off is months before Daredevil dies.
Mm-hmm.
He kills the Kingpin. He beats him to death with his batons, and he kills him. Right in the street, people watching, same thing like with Bullseye did to Daredevil. And he basically says to the crowd, I tried everything else. There was nothing else I could have done.
Mm-hmm.
And Ben is telling the story to his son, Timmy, and he's like, a real hero doesn't kill. A real hero can't kill.
Right.
That's why they're heroes. Then, months go by, Daredevil dies, and it goes to him finding out what MAPONE means, and so he's searching. And so his first tip that he gets is to go to Black Widow, because he's going to go to anyone that had relations with Daredevil,
sure, makes sense.
or, any of his friends, family. And so he goes to a bar, and in the bar he goes to the bartender, he's like, so hey, there's this chick that used to hang out here, redhead, she used to beat people's asses probably a lot. And so the bartender says, I hadn't seen her in a long time, I don't know what's going on, but she ain't been here. And so all of a sudden the phone rings, and the bartender answers the phone, and he's like, yeah, oh, you want to talk to him? No? Oh, okay. And bartender writes down a piece of paper, takes the note over to Ben, and gives him a note, and it says, out back. And so he goes out back, and what does he find? Nick Fury. And so he tells him, I don't know what you're looking for. I know you're looking for Black Widow and she's dead.
Oh, wow.
He's like, and then he's like, well, do you know what MAPONE means? And he's like, nope, but Black Widow's dead. That's all I came to say. Okay, bye, Nick.
Yeah.
And so...
Thanks for nothing.
Yeah. And so the next thing he does is he goes to a soccer game. And why a soccer game? Well, because he's looking to find Elektra, who was obviously really close to Daredevil at one point in their lives. Mm-hmm. And so he's standing outside of his car, and all of a sudden Elektra comes up behind him and sticks something up to his back. Oh. And she's like, you know, what are you doing here? Why are you following me? Mm-hmm. And he's like, do you know what MAPONE means? And she's like, no. But if I ever see you again, I'll kill you.
Yeah.
And it comes out to show that she just stuck her finger in his back. Like she was just
she's that much of a threat. He's not even trying to.
Yeah. He was so afraid that he throws up, and it shows him throwing up, and it has little words like the PFFTPS. Yeah, like just like a sound, nice. And that's how scared he was of her. But it was just a finger. And so the next lead that he gets is an actress, and her name is Typhoid Mary. That was her name. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now it's just Mary. Mm-hmm. And so the thing on Typhoid Mary was she was a mutant that has like pyrokinesis, telekinesis, but she's also like a ninja, like really good at martial arts and all weapons and stuff like that. So she's kind of like Jean Grey with ninja training. Okay. So he goes to her.
She looks pretty ruthless right there.
Yeah. When it shows the throwback to her, yeah, she's pretty crazy looking. Yeah. And so he goes and he's talking to her. And he's like, "Do you know what MAPONE means?" And she was like, "No, but I had this thing done to me where I kind of forgot my whole life before a certain point, and now I have a totally different personality. Like that's a totally different person now." Yeah. And so she's like, and so her kids walk into the room, and she's like, "Oh, Ben, I'd like you to meet my princes." And that's how she refers to her kids, as her princes. Yeah. And so he's like, oh, well, I didn't even know you had kids. And she's like, they're hers. And she starts to cry because she doesn't even know like where they came from, who their father is or anything, you know. And so so he goes off because he still doesn't know what MAPONE means. Mm-hmm. And he goes to his next lead, and his next lead is Echo. Her actual name is Maya Lopez, and she's deaf, and she basically her power is to decipher any language, no matter how old. So it can be like hieroglyphics.
There's all sorts of crazy stuff on this board. Right
like stuff that you can never even.
She's like doing a class or whatever. Wow. Yeah.
And she can just read it.
Awesome.
She can just read it. Like she can look at hieroglyphics and read them like they were English. Right. And that's her power. That's her mutant ability. And so he asks her, "Do you know what MAPONE means?" And she's like, "No." She's like, "The last time I saw him, he was really beat up, so I fixed him up and we had sex, and that was it." And so he's like, "Okay," and he's starting to get really frustrated, and he's like, he goes on to his next lead, and his next lead is his detective friend that he saved his life, and by saved his life, he got him out of court because he was on false charges, and so Ben made that clear that the charges were fake, and so now every time he gets a decent story for Ben, he calls him up. He's like, "Hey man, remember how you saved my life? Well, I got something for you." And even though he doesn't owe him anything, he still does it now. And so the lead is Bullseye's dead, and it looks like Bullseye wrote MAPONE in his own blood with his finger on the wall behind him, and then shot himself in the head. And there's bullet holes all over the walls. And they're like, "Why are these bullet holes here? Like he shot himself in the head. Like it must have been a shootout." And they're like, "Nope. Bullseye just likes to ricochet stuff, and that's his thing. Like he can make anything a weapon, especially guns." So he ricocheted the bullet off the wall, bounced off the walls, hit him in the head, bounced off the wall behind him, and hit the mirror, and that's where it ended. And so that's the way he went out. And so they see a matchbook, and it's a Visions matchbook. Not Vision like the superhero Vision, but Visions as in a strip club.
Yeah. Chichi bars. Yeah.
And so
partying too much.
So Ben goes to the bar, or Ben goes to the strip club Visions, and he goes to this guy, the owner of the bar.
Pink.
Yeah. Exactly. And so they're in the bar, and he goes to the owner. The owner's name's Turk.
Nice.
And so he's like, he's like, "Hey, let me talk to the girl." And he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." He's like, "No, come on, bro. Like, we go way back. Like, don't play me like that. And he's like, okay. And he's like, so go talk to that chick in the back. She's crying. And so he goes to the girl, and she's half dressed as Elektra. And she tells the story of what happened. And basically, this gets pretty dark. Bullseye paid this hooker to dress up like Elektra and have sex with her. And right before he came, he put the Daredevil mask on that Daredevil died in, and he put it over his head, and he came. And then afterward, he took the mask off of his head, put it on her head, and like wrote the word MAPONE, and then shot himself in the head. And then like that's how he died. And she was there for all of it. She saw it all, and she freaked out and ran away. Mm-hmm. And so, still not knowing what MAPONE means, so Ben's talking about his son Timmy, about Daredevil, and about what a hero is, and all this other stuff that we talked about before, about how a hero never kills. And so, after that talk, he goes to prison. Ben does. But he doesn't go to prison, he visits prison.
Right.
And he's visiting the Punisher, who has been arrested for a couple of years, it seems. And he's like, hey,
Frank
Punisher.
Castle.
Yeah, Frank Castle.
1291974.
Prisoner number Castle. And so he asks Punisher, do you know what MAPONE means? And he's like, you're not going to tell me, are you? Nope. And so we know Punisher knows what MAPONE means, but he's not going to tell Ben.
But he's a bastard.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
yeah.
Maybe it's something important he doesn't know who Ben is, because that's how Frank is. He doesn't know. He's not going to trust some dude he doesn't fucking know.
Exactly, yeah. He does. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I get that.
Yeah. And so he's like, but, thank you. And he's like, for what? And he's like, because you just got me out here. And then all of a sudden, a fire breaks out, and he escapes prison. And so, now Punisher's escaped because of Ben, and Ben has no lead except for Punisher, who escaped prison, and he'll probably never see again. Ben's like, okay, I'll go to the costume shop where Bullseye bought the Elektra costume. So he goes to the shop, and it's owned by Gladiator. And Gladiator's a bad guy for Daredevil back in the day. And basically, it's just a guy that's really good with weapons and stuff, and he had these buzzsaw blades on his wrists, and those were his like main weapons.
Yeah.
And so he goes, and he's like, hey, do you know what's going on with this? And he's like, yeah, I made it for Bullseye. And he's like, usually dead characters get more sales than live characters. And so he's like, oh, well, that's pretty fucked up. He's like, yeah, but I make a living off of it.
Yeah, so,
and so he's like, well, do you know MAPONE? And he's like, no, I have no clue what that is. So he's like, all right. So Ben gives Peter Parker a call.
He's desperate. He's fucking desperate.
He's super
reaching
desperate
for something.
Yeah, he's reaching for anything. And so he calls Peter Parker, gets the voicemail. He's like, hey, Pete, I need you, man. Like, I need some help. Please help me. And so Peter calls back, and he gets Ben's voicemail, and he's like, sorry, man, I can't help you. Like, there's nothing I can do for you.
He says, not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore.
Well, he's not going to help him with anything.
Yeah.
Jeez. So now, Parker knows something.
Yeah.
Right? What does Parker know?
Yeah, what does Parker know?
So now, Castle knows something, Parker knows something. What the hell's going on?
All the superheroes know something.
Yeah, and this dude is like, okay,
yeah.
I'm getting nowhere with this. Yeah. That's crazy.
And so he hears that a villain recently went to the hospital. So he went to the hospital to see what it was, and they say that he was beat up by the Punisher. And so...
And he looks like he's been beat up by the Punisher.
Oh yeah, he's cast from head to toe. And this villain's name is Bushwhacker, and basically he has cybernetic arms that can turn from arms into weapons. And he usually uses like these crazy 50 machine gun barrel arms and shoots at Daredevil. It's a D-list hero or a D-list villain, and they say that in the book. They're like, oh, it's another D-list criminal.
That's funny.
And so another random criminal comes into the room, and he's just running. His name's Bullet. He looks like the Blob, but with long hair and a goatee.
He looks like Kevin Smith. If Kevin Smith.
He looks like Kevin Smith if Kevin Smith gained 500 pounds and was 8 feet tall.
Yeah. And charging through.
And his name is Bullet.
Okay.
And he's kind of like the Juggernaut almost, but not unstoppable. But he's pretty strong and he's pretty fast for a big guy. And he knocks Ben out the window because he's trying to kill Bushwhacker.
Yeah.
No one knows why he's trying to kill Bushwhacker, but he's trying.
Because, he wants to be
maybe
a better D-list villain than Bushwhacker.
Maybe he's like, there can only be one D-list villain in this universe.
There can only be one.
Yeah.
whatever that happened.
And so he knocks Ben out the window, and Ben's falling to his death, and he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do now. Like, I guess I'm going to die. All of a sudden, Daredevil saves him. Obviously not Matt Murdock Daredevil. Some new Daredevil.
So in the time that Daredevil Matt Murdock has died, somebody else has put the suit on and claimed Daredevil.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so Ben wakes up in the hospital, not knowing what happened. Besides, he knew that Daredevil saved him, but he knew it wasn't Matt Murdock.
Yeah.
And so his son's like, hey, is it true that Daredevil saved you? He's like, well, that's what they say. Like, and he's like, but it's not Matt. It's a different Daredevil.
Yeah.
And he's like, what happened to Bullet? And he's like, Daredevil killed him. And he's like, yeah, this new Daredevil's definitely no hero. And he's like, why do you say that? He's like, because a hero never kills.
Yeah.
And so he's like,
so that's a theme.
Yeah, it's a huge theme of the book.
That's a theme.
The whole book's about what a hero is.
Okay.
And so he goes to his next lead, which is basically he's just like, I'm gonna look up random villains from Daredevil's past, and he finds out this guy named the Owl, and he's basically like he could fly and all this other stuff back in the day, but now he's just a Kingpin wannabe because Kingpin was killed, and so he's trying to take over his spot.
So somebody's got to take charge of. Yeah.
So Ben asks the Owl, do you know anything about MAPONE? And he's like, no, but check out this cool trophy I got. And he pulls out this box with Daredevil's mask in it. He's like, this is the mask that Daredevil actually died in.
Yeah.
I got it from the morgue.
Nice.
And so he's like, okay. And he's like, I'm going to leave now.
And the Owl, I gotta say, looks ridiculous. He looks like a silly version of Wolverine.
He looks like, he that's exactly what he looks like. He looks like fat Wolverine.
A very silly Wolverine.
Yeah, but not half as bad.
Nice.
Ben leaves and he goes to a bar and he's like, I'm just gonna drown my sorrows in some whiskey and get this done with.
Because that's how you do.
That's how you do it. Sometimes you just gotta drink some whiskey.
Drowning, there's a tear in my beer.
So he gets a call.
Sorry.
And the call is from Kilgrave, the Purple Man.
The Purple Man.
The Purple Man, I looked him up, and basically, he uses pheromones to control people.
Okay.
Sometimes it's different stuff in different universes, but in this one it's definitely pheromones, because that's what it says. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, hey, I got some news about MAPONE if you want to come hear about it. And Ben's like, do I really want to go see a guy that can control me if I with pheromones? He's like, fuck it. And so he goes and does it. And he gets there, and he knocks on the door, and he walks in, and then he looks over and he sees Kilgrave, the Purple Man.
The Purple Man.
Dead.
Shot
bullet through the head.
In the fucking head.
And then he looks over at the window, and Punisher's just standing there.
Son of a bitch.
Punisher. So Punisher's taking out his fucking leads now.
Yeah.
And Punisher's just standing there after he shot him. Like, Punisher's standing there, like, in the window. He's like, shh. Like, literally, like, that's the... Like, right there.
Now don't say a word, children.
Oh, God. And so Punisher leaves, and just like, as quick as he came in, he left.
Yeah.
And so Ben's like, And so Ben's like, okay, maybe I can go to this ninja society that used to fight Daredevil a lot. So this ninja society is called the Hand, but now they have a church, so it's the Church of the Hand.
Church of the Hand.
And in the Church of the Hand is a man. His name is Mr. Tanaka. And Mr. Tanaka has the power to mess with your head. Basically, like, I don't know. His...
Sorry. It was in my head. I had to get it out.
So Mr. Tanaka has the power to mess with your head, like maybe like squeeze your brain or something.
Yeah.
It's not really, I don't really know for sure, but you see him, like, his eyes start glowing red, and all of a sudden Ben's nose starts bleeding.
Yeah.
And so he gets out of there, he runs away, and he's like, around here there was a safe house for Daredevil. Yeah. Maybe I'll go check it out, maybe he'll have something. Mm-hmm. So he goes in, and he sees a computer and a matchbook for Vision's nightclub.
There it is again.
And so he looks at the laptop, and there's all these different files on it. And one of them says map.
Oh.
One of them says one. MAPONE. So he clicks on it, and he's like, and he doesn't say anything, but all of a sudden a ninja sneaks up behind him. And to put this in the context, I'm guessing the ninja was sent from the Church of the Hand, because they're Ninja Society.
Yeah.
So that's what made sense to me about it.
Right.
But if you have any other theories, go ahead and post them in the comments below.
Bam.
And so this ninja sneaking up behind him, and all of a sudden, crash through the window. The new Daredevil saves Ben's life, drags him through the window, and then jumps onto the rooftops. All of a sudden,
Samurai Jack.
ninjas and fucking arrows just start raining from the sky.
Yep.
And so
That's
Daredevil
the
pulls
first
Ben
thing,
around this chimney, and he hides him behind the chimney. And Punisher comes out of nowhere with two assault rifles, and he just starts blowing these ninjas away, and just kills all the ninjas.
Do we trust Frank? Do we not trust Frank?
Yeah.
Is Frank on our side?
Well, Frank obviously doesn't want him to find out what MAPONE means, but he doesn't want him to die.
Yeah.
Like, and so...
And he hates ninjas, so what the fuck, you know?
He's like, fucking ninjas.
Ninjas!
So Punisher kills all the ninjas, and Daredevil goes back to Ben, and he sees that Ben got shot with an arrow right in the stomach.
Damn.
And he's gonna die. He's gonna die real soon. And so he's like... So Daredevil takes off his mask, and he's like, Dad? Timmy was Daredevil's apprentice and became the new Daredevil after Daredevil died. And so immediately after this, it goes to a flashback of Timmy remembering Daredevil training him. And he's talking about all these different things that he's going to go through. And he's like, someday I might not be around, like, and that day you'll have to take up the outfit and do my work. And so he's like, okay. And you finally find out why Timmy was so into Daredevil all the time. Is because he wanted to know his dad's opinion on what he might be someday.
Yeah. Here's Frank kind of manipulating him, telling him to punish them all.
Yeah. So So Timmy's in his apartment, and Punisher comes in, and he's basically like, "Hey, where's the stash?" Because Daredevil always has a stash of a bunch of prescription drugs for pain and stuff like that, because he was always getting the shit kicked out of him, and he needed to heal. He's not Wolverine. He doesn't have a healing ability. They're talking, and he's like, "Are you my mentor that Daredevil told me I would get someday?" And he was like, "No. Like, what the hell are you talking about, kid? I'm just here for some drugs so I can, feel better." He was like, "But later." And so Peter Parker calls up Timmy, and he asks him to go to the bar. He heard that his dad died, and Peter Parker, dealing with grievances of a parent figure dying, is like, I need to be there for this kid.
Totally
he has no one else.
I get it. Yeah.
And so they're talking at the bar, and all of a sudden Peter Parker's Spidey sense starts going off like crazy, and he has to leave.
Yeah.
And so he leaves, and Timmy gets a note around back. And guess who's there? Nick Fury. And he has an envelope, and he's like, "Hey, this envelope is for you," and it has MAPONE written on it.
Oh, shit.
And he's like, "What? Like, my dad went to you, and you said you didn't know anything." He's like, "Yeah, I couldn't tell him, but you, I can tell." And so he's like, "No." And he's like, "My dad died trying to get this story." And so he throws it into the trash can that's burning already. Maybe Nick Fury lit a trash can on fire? Maybe. But anyway, so it cuts back to Daredevil, and he's saying that his mentor was Stick. And he was a blind man. And he's going to get the reincarnation of Stick, more or less. And so he's sitting in the bar. He goes back into the bar, and he's drinking. And all of a sudden, he hears this commotion going on behind him, this guy's like, "Hey lady, you're cheating me. There's no way you could have made that shot." And because they're playing pool. And the lady's like, "Pay up, dude, like, you've lost." And he's like, "No." And he's about to hit her, so she starts fighting him with the pool cue. And so the girl starts beating the shit out of these guys.
Yeah, giving it to him pretty good.
And Daredevil, and Timmy pulls on the Daredevil mask, and he's about to try to help, but before he could even help, she has all of them on the ground.
She's got a hand.
Yeah. And she has blood on her glasses. She pulls off her glasses to wipe them off, and you see that she's blind.
She's blind.
And so a blind chick that whoops ass with a stick? And so she grabs his hand and she's like, "Hey, we gotta get out of here." And so they go into his car and they start driving away. She's like, "So I never got your name." And he's like, "Oh, it's Timmy. What's yours?" And she's like, "MAPONE."
Yep. So Wow.
So the whole time his dad was searching for what MAPONE meant. MAPONE is Timmy's mentor, and she's going to teach him to be just like the Daredevil, just as good as the Daredevil.
And that's what was burning in the envelope in the trash.
And it shows the envelope in the trash, and it shows a picture of Black Widow, Daredevil, and this little blind girl.
With boxing gloves.
Yep. And both of her parents are dead, and now she's with Timmy, and she's going to train him.
So that was Murdoch's plan all along. To make sure that Timmy
found MAPONE.
Yeah.
And that's why he said it, and that's why Ben went on the whole search. But Ben had no clue what he was going to find.
But everyone calls me Stick.
Yeah, she says everyone calls me Stick.
Yeah.
So right. And that's the end of the book. And
damn.
So the whole story is about the death of Daredevil and what a hero is. And so most likely it's going to be like a Peter Parker with great power comes great responsibility.
Of course.
But a hero never kills.
I want to say that what interests me most about this book is Brian Michael Bendis.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people follow Brian Michael Bendis. I haven't read everything he's done, but I was really hooked on the Ultimate Spider-Man books, and Bendis, from now on, if anything has his name on it, I'll give it a thought.
That's actually why I bought it, because I saw a New York Times bestseller, and I was like, that doesn't matter. But then I saw Bendis, and I was like, Bendis wrote Old Man Logan.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fucking pick this book up.
Anything Bendis writes, I'm in. Yeah. So I'm gonna have to read this book on my own. It sounds like an amazing story, doesn't it?
Yeah. And unlike Old Man Logan, I totally didn't destroy the entire plot. I destroyed the beginning and end, but there's some stuff in the middle that I left out on purpose just because I didn't want to give a full explanation.
Yeah, for sure.
And so go ahead and pick up the book. It's a good book. If you like Daredevil or if you want to get into him, it's a pretty cool book. It's not an origin story. Well, it kind of is, but for a different Daredevil.
Yeah, it's definitely Timmy's
origin story. But it's a good book, so you should pick it up. So we hope you enjoyed our episode of Daredevil End of Days.
Sure do.
And if you liked it, go ahead and give us a subscribe.
Maybe even a like.
And we'll see you next time on Comic Duo.